Hi, you clicked onto this site because you would like to know a bit more about A-level English literature, and one of the questions that nearly everybody starts with, what do we read? What are the books? My name's Julie Ashmore, I'm the course leader for English Lit. I'm going to talk you through some of the books and hopefully tell you a bit more about the course. Right, so I've broken it down like this into the different exam texts to help. With paper one, the first text, in fact, that we start in year one is Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. It's a comedy. Not many people do comedies for GCSE. It's pretty short and it's a nice bridge between your GCSE studies and the start of your A level. And we'll talk a bit more about that in the Twelfth Night bridging lesson that hopefully you'll go on and check out. In paper one, we also compare Ibsen's play, a Norwegian writer, A Doll's House, with Milton's epic poem, Paradise Lost, books 9 and 10. We don't look at those until the second year, but obviously there's no harm at all getting ahead and reading those if you want to. We'll talk about editions that you might want to access, and I'll also tell you which ones are available for free online. The other exam paper, and both exam papers are 2.5 hours and they're both at the end of the 2 years. It's the study of dystopian fiction. You will primarily compare George Orwell's 1984, a book that I'm sure many of you have heard of and probably some of you have read, and Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. Okay, so those are the exam text books, the minimum. But what do you do for coursework? Well, in the first year, after you've got your head around Twelfth Night, we'll start you with some analysis of poetry. To bridge that gap again from GCSE, we've looked at the Poetry of Conflict, which many of you have done, but we'll provide you with an anthology. The poems themselves are taken from a larger anthology called Poetry Please, which is a compilation of poems that have been requested to be read out on the Radio 4 programme. You choose one and you basically write an essay on it. It's pretty straightforward. And there's a nice bit of choice there. And then the other texts for coursework, again, like your dystopian, are a comparison. You're going to compare Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson with a play called After Mr. Rochester by Polly Teal. We will probably start that around the end of the first year. That was the plan this year. Obviously, things changed a little bit. Both texts, their Oranges, is a pretty short novel, and After Mr. Rochester obviously is a play, and we would intend to read that together as a class and put it on its feet a bit more. Okay. In terms of recommended editions, we don't specify too much. Probably the most important one is this Arden edition of Twelfth Night, because it's got very good detailed notes. You know, we're stepping up from kind of like Cambridge Schools editions here. One of the things that we're looking at with Twelfth Night is the detailed use of language. So really good notes and a very good introduction. I also recommend, if possible, that you pick up different copies, second-hand copies of all of your books. But with the Shakespeare in particular, it gives you access to different introductions, which often contain editors' little essays on the play and on the subject. Now, if you are going to buy your own copies of A Doll's House and Paradise Lost, and again, these aren't until the second year, so nothing too much to worry about, we definitely recommend this Bloomsbury edition because it has such a detailed introduction and you really have to know your context around these two texts. I keep pointing at the screen, but you can't see me doing that. Doll's House and Paradise Lost. And this one in plain English we recommend because it literally has what we might consider a translation. Don't let that put you off. These are amazing texts full of brilliant themes and ideas that you're going to enjoy discussing with us. Right, so those are your recommended editions. But I know that all of you are desperate to do some wider reading, so here we go. With the dystopian exam, what you are being asked to show an understanding of is how well you understand that particular genre. And we can only understand a genre if we've read widely around it. The list here then is the wider set reading list that the exam board OCR give us. And you can see that it's in, or maybe you can see, it's in chronological order. So the Time Machine is the oldest text on there. You can access that online for free, right up until The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Very different books. There are a few others that you can access. I know that you can access A Clockwork Orange. There's a PDF online. If you are going to start with any of them, I'd say that the easiest ones to read, and I don't mean necessarily that they are then that they're kind of dumbed down books by any stretch. These are all OCR A-level texts. But The Road is easy in that it's short and accessible, but it's pretty harrowing. Memoirs of a Survivor is a very challenging read. My favourite book on there, that's a hard one, maybe The Children of Men. The Children of Men also has the closest similarities with Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. What else could you do? You can read other Shakespearean comedies. You can read all of Paradise Lost. We study books 9 and 10, but there are more. And you could read other plays by Ibsen. You might want to read, for example, Hedda Gabler. And thinking ahead to that coursework, it's a really good idea because we are studying a play which is about the novelist Jean Rhys. Read her novel, Wide Sargasso Sea. And Wide Sargasso Sea is a novel that gives the prequel, if you like, to Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. There's a lot to do there. We do not expect you to have done loads of wider reading before you start our course, but we do expect you to like reading and to be ready to engage with what you have discussed. Okay, hope that's helpful, and I hope you've looked at the rest of the site, and remember my email address is on there if you want to get in touch.